It started on a foggy Tuesday morning, just after sunrise. I heard the sound of a diesel truck idling outside my cabin, followed by the clatter of metal measuring tapes being pulled out. When I looked out my kitchen window, there were 3 men in hard hats standing around my brand new garage, pacing back and forth like wolves circling prey. One of them hammered a stake into the ground. Another pulled out a clipboard and started sketching. For a moment, I thought they had the wrong address. Then I saw the logo on the truck. It wasn't a city crew. It was a private demolition company. My stomach sank, but only for a second. I'd been expecting something like this. That's how far things had gotten with our HOA president, Karen. Now, Karen wasn't the type of woman to come knocking politely. She was the type who thought the neighborhood was her personal kingdom. She once fined my neighbor $350 because his trash cans were visible for exactly 11 minutes after pickup. She drove a shiny black SUV with custom plates that said Queen HOA, and she bragged about buying her $900 handbag, even though anyone could tell it was a fake designer knockoff. But what she didn't know that morning was that I wasn't alone in this fight. I threw on my boots and stepped outside. "Morning, fellas," I said calmly. "Can I ask why you're measuring my property?" The foreman, a stocky guy with a thick mustache, barely glanced up from his clipboard. "We've been hired to prep this structure for removal. Demolition schedule for later this month." "Removal?" I raised an eyebrow. "That garage cost me $42,000 to build, with full city permits. Want to see the paperwork?" He hesitated. "You'll have to talk to the HOA. They signed the order." That's when Karen strutted up the road, like a general arriving to inspect her troops. She had oversized sunglasses, a loud red coat that looked like it came off the discount rack, and that smug smile she always wore when she thought she had power. "Well, well, well," she sang. "Looks like we caught you red-handed. Unauthorized structure against community guidelines. This eyesore is coming down." I pulled the permit folder from my jacket pocket. "Funny, the city of Lakeside doesn't seem to think so. Here's the official stamp." Karen didn't even look at it. She just waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "HOA rules override. We protect property values. That garage knocks 50 grand off every home on this street." Behind me, I heard a squeaky voice. It was Dennis, my next-door neighbor, and probably the most nervous man alive. He peeked from behind his screen door, clutching a mug that said, "World's Best Dog Dad." "Oh, Lord, is it happening? They're not going to bulldoze it today, are they? Because I still owe on my roof loan, and if they start tearing down garages, they might—" Oh God, his voice cracked, and he disappeared back inside. Karen rolled her eyes. "Ignore him. He's a coward, always whining." Then she leaned close to me, lowering her sunglasses so I could see the steel in her eyes. "You have 30 days. If that garage isn't gone, I'll make sure it disappears, permanently." The demolition crew shuffled awkwardly. Even they seemed uncomfortable with her tone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just smiled faintly and took the permits back into my coat. "Careful, Karen. You don't know who you're dealing with." She smirked. "Please, you're just some guy with a shed." I didn't correct her. Not yet. Because what Karen didn't realize that morning was that my cousin, yes, the same cousin I had dinner with every Sunday, was the mayor of this city, and he already knew everything about this little stunt. Karen jabbed her finger at the garage like she was issuing a royal decree. 30 days, or else. I watched her march back up the street, barking orders into her phone. Dennis cracked his door open again. She looks serious, man. Maybe you should, park somewhere else, or maybe build a smaller garage. Please tell me you're not going to fight her. She terrifies me." I just chuckled, heading back inside. "Don't worry, Dennis. The fight hasn't even started." And that's when my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from my cousin. Just 3 words. "Let's make this fun." I stared at the screen, smiling. Karen thought she was about to win a petty power trip. She had no idea she'd just declared war on them. The 30 days didn't pass quietly. Karen turned it into a personal crusade. Within the first week, I got 3 violation letters in the mail, each one printed on glossy HOA stationery, with the logo embossed in gold foil, like they were invitations to a royal wedding. Violation number 2215, the first letter read, Unauthorized structure. Fine, $1,000. Violation number 2216. The second one came 2 days later. Non-conforming paint color on garage trim. Fine, $500. And the third one, my favorite. Violation number 2217. Improper grass length around garage perimeter. Fine, $250. Altogether, $1,750 in fake fines in less than a week. Karen was efficient, I'll give her that. I carried the letters next door to Dennis. He was on his porch, trimming hedges nervously with little craft scissors, like he was defusing a bomb. "Look at this nonsense," I said, handing him the stack. Dennis flipped through them, his face turning pale. "Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. She got you with the trim fine? She hit me with that last year. Cost me $300 because my clippers jammed. I had nightmares for weeks. Look, buddy, I hate to say this, but maybe you should just pay it. It's easier, less painful." "Pay it?" I laughed. "Dennis, this is extortion, pure and simple. I'm not giving her a dime." He glanced around like Karen might be hiding in the bushes with binoculars. "Shh, don't say that so loud. She has ears everywhere. I swear, one time I muttered something about her at the grocery store, and the next morning I got a letter about my recycling bin being an inch out of place. An inch, man." I shook my head. "Relax, Dennis. Trust me. This is going to backfire on her. In a big way." The truth was, my cousin had already set things in motion. He told me to gather everything, every fine, every threat, every scrap of paper, and keep it all neatly documented. He even lent me a little voice recorder so I could capture conversations. He said, "Nothing shuts a bully down faster than their own words." By the second week, Karen upped her game. She called a special emergency HOA board meeting. Normally, these things happened in the clubhouse, but this one? She held it in her own living room. That should have been the first red flag. When I arrived, there were 7 people crammed onto floral couches that smelled like strong perfume. Karen sat at the head of the room with a gavel. She probably ordered off Amazon for $20, but bragged cost $200. "Order, order," she barked, slamming it down on the coffee table. "We're here to discuss the unauthorized garage threatening the harmony of our community." I raised my hand. "It's not unauthorized. I have city permits." Karen ignored me. "The board will now vote on mandatory demolition. Any opposed?" One elderly neighbor tried to speak up. "Well, I don't think..." Karen cut her off. "Noted. You abstain." She rattled off a bunch of legal-sounding nonsense, then clapped her hands together. "Motion passes. The garage is officially condemned. Demolition will proceed on schedule." Dennis, sitting next to me, nearly fainted. "Oh Lord, they're actually going to do it. I can hear the bulldozers already." He fumbled with his water bottle and dropped it on the carpet. I leaned back, calm as ever, voice recorder running in my pocket. "Karen, you do realize that falsifying enforcement actions without legal authority can be classified as fraud, right?" She smirked. "You wouldn't dare challenge me. Nobody has ever won against me in 20 years. Nobody." I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. Instead, I just said, "We'll see." By the third week, whispers started spreading in the neighborhood. People noticed the HOA fees weren't adding up. The monthly budget report claimed that $12,000 had been spent on landscaping improvements. Funny thing, no one had seen a single plant. Mrs. Henderson from 2 streets over mentioned that her dues check had been cashed by a company she didn't recognize, a shell company with no address. The cracks were showing. One evening, as I was grilling burgers in my backyard, Dennis rushed over, practically tripping over himself. "She knows, man. Karen knows you're building a case. I saw her with a folder. She was talking to some lawyer in her driveway, pointing at your garage. You gotta be careful." I flipped the burger, calm as ever. "Relax, Dennis. Trust me, this is going to backfire on her." That night, I emailed everything to my cousin. The letters, the recordings, even the HOA's phony budget. He called me the next day, his voice serious. "You need to see this. It's worse than we thought." There was a pause. Then I heard paper shuffling over the phone. He continued, She's not just coming after you. We found evidence she's been skimming HOA funds for years, tens of thousands, and she's using shell contractors to funnel the money. I froze. I knew Karen was bad, but embezzlement? That was a whole new level. Come by City Hall tomorrow. I'll show you everything. But don't tell anyone. Not yet. I hung up, staring at the glowing garage in the twilight. Karen thought she was in control. She had no idea the ground was already crumbling beneath her feet. And as I turned off the grill, I saw her standing at the end of my driveway, watching. Not smiling this time, just staring.
It was the night before I was supposed to meet my cousin at City Hall when the first real sign of panic hit the neighborhood. A black SUV rolled slowly down the street, stopping in front of my driveway. The engine idled, headlights flooding my garage. I stepped onto the porch, arms crossed. The window rolled down just enough for me to see a familiar silhouette. Karen. She didn't say a word. She just sat there, sunglasses on even though it was dark, staring at me for a full minute before driving off. The message was clear. She knew, and she wasn't gonna back down. The next morning, Dennis showed up at my door, shaking like a leaf, holding a half-eaten bagel in one hand. She knows! She knows! She knows! I heard her on the phone last night. She was talking to some guy named Rick the Wrecking Man. I swear I'm not making that up. Rick the Wrecking Man. They're planning something. I sighed. Dennis, calm down. Sit down, eat your bagel before you choke. He plopped on my couch, crumbs flying everywhere. No, you don't understand. She said, and I quote, "We're not waiting 30 days. We move sooner. Make an example of him." An example, man? That sounds like mob stuff. I'm telling you, we're all doomed. I handed him a glass of water. Dennis, relax. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the mayor. We've got her nailed on fraud, embezzlement, everything. She's finished. But even I didn't expect how bold she'd get. That evening, Karen called another emergency HOA meeting. This time, she rented the banquet hall at Lakeside Country Club. $2,000 an hour, straight out of HOA funds. She wanted a show. When I walked in, she was standing at a podium with a giant banner behind her. Protecting property values, protecting our future. The room was filled with folding chairs, angry whispers, and residents clutching their violation letters like unpaid bills. Karen tapped the microphone. "Attention neighbors, thank you for attending. We are here because one man," she jabbed her finger at me, her voice dripping with venom, "has decided to defy our community. He built an unsanctioned garage that devalues every home here by at least $50,000. $50,000! That is theft from each of you."
Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A few people actually nodded. Others looked confused. I stood. "With all due respect, Karen, this garage was built legally, with city permits. What's more," she slammed her gavel so hard the microphone screeched. "Silence! This is my floor!" From the corner, Dennis raised his trembling hand. I just want to say, maybe we could all calm down? I mean, it's a nice garage, real nice, heated too. I checked Zillow last night and..." Karen turned on him like a hawk. "Dennis, sit down before I fine you again for unkempt hedges." Dennis yelped and nearly fell into his chair. Sorry, my hedges are fine. They're fine, I promise." I glanced around the room. That's when I noticed it. Not everyone was buying her act. A few neighbors were whispering about dues, about missing funds, about special assessments that never led to any improvements. The tide was shifting. Karen must have noticed too, because her voice grew shrill. "This garage must come down. I've already taken steps to ensure demolition. The crew is scheduled. And if anyone here thinks they can stop me, think again. I run this neighborhood." The room went silent. She stared me down, daring me to respond. I just pulled out my phone, holding it up so the little red light on my recorder blinked. Funny thing about threats, Karen, they sound even better when they're recorded. Her face twisted. You smug little... She caught herself, forced a smile. Meeting adjourned. She slammed the gavel again and stormed off stage. The crowd dispersed, buzzing with tension. Dennis grabbed my sleeve, whispering urgently. She wasn't bluffing. I saw her paperwork. There's a crew on retainer. She's gonna do it. Any day now. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made me glance at the window. Every car that slowed down made me wonder if she'd actually send bulldozers in the dead of night. And then, at 3:17 in the morning, headlights swept across my yard. A rumble of engines followed. I threw on my boots, heart pounding, and stepped onto the porch. 3 trucks sat idling at the end of my driveway. One of them had a trailer, and strapped onto that trailer was the unmistakable silhouette of a bulldozer. The bulldozer's engine roared like a beast waiting to be unleashed. Its headlights cut through the night, glaring at my garage like a predator eyeing its prey. I tightened my coat and walked straight down the driveway. The foreman jumped out of the truck, clipboard in hand. Orders from the HOA, demolition begins tonight. Step aside, sir. Tonight? I laughed, shaking my head. At 3 in the morning, without city permits? You sure you want to do this? He shifted uncomfortably. The lady said everything was cleared. We get paid whether it's tonight or tomorrow. Before I could answer, Dennis burst out of his front door in his pajamas, flannel bottoms covered in little dachshunds, and a t-shirt that said, "Keep calm and feed the dog." His hair was sticking up like he'd been electrocuted. "Oh God, oh God, oh God," he screamed. "They brought the beast, the steel monster. They're gonna crush us all. I told you this would happen. I should have built a bunker. Oh Lord, my hedge trimmer's still plugged in. They'll find me for fire hazards while the garage burns." "Dennis," I barked, "go back inside before you give yourself a heart attack." But he didn't. He paced the lawn, pulling at his hair. "She's crazy! She's lost it! Karen will stop at nothing! She probably bribed them with our HOA dues! We're doomed, man! Doomed!" Just then, Karen's black SUV slid into view, headlights off, rolling to a stop like a shark circling. She stepped out in heels, far too tall for gravel, clutching that fake $900 purse, and strutted forward with a smug smile. "Well, well," she purred. "Looks like the end of your little fortress. Should have listened when you had the chance." I crossed my arms. "And you should have done your homework, because this little stunt, it's about to cost you more than my garage ever did." Karen laughed so hard she had to clutch her stomach. "Oh, please. Do you know how many people I've buried under paperwork? How many cowards caved when I slapped them with fines? You're nothing special. Bulldoze it." The foreman hesitated, looking from me to Karen. "Ma'am, I don't see a city permit for removal. I don't want trouble with the law." Karen snapped. "I am the law here. Do it." I pulled out my phone and dialed. Karen sneered. "Who are you gonna call at 3 in the morning? Ghostbusters?" I didn't answer. I just held the phone to my ear. 2 minutes later, the sound of another engine echoed down the street. This one smooth, powerful, not a beat-up demolition truck. A sleek black sedan pulled up, headlights sweeping across the stunned faces. The door opened, and out stepped my cousin, the mayor. He wore a navy suit, no tie, sleeves rolled up like he'd just come from a long day, but his presence froze the entire street. Even Dennis stopped pacing, jaw dropped.
"Evening," the mayor said calmly, hands in his pockets. "Funny time for a demolition, isn't it?" Karen's face drained of color. You can't be here. This is private property. HOA business." The mayor walked closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "That garage was built with city permits, which means this," he waved at the bulldozer, the trucks, the hired crew, "is attempted property destruction. And it's illegal. Very illegal."
Karen tried to recover her composure. "We have authority. We protect property values." The mayor chuckled, shaking his head. "Karen, you've been hiding behind those words for years. But see, words won't protect you from fraud charges or embezzlement." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" I stepped forward, pulling the folder from my coat. "We know about the shell companies, the missing landscaping funds, the fake contractor invoices. It's all here." For the first time, Karen faltered. Her voice cracked. That's lies. Made up. You can't prove." The mayor cut her off, his tone like steel. "We can prove it, and tomorrow morning you'll find out just how much trouble you're in." Karen staggered back, clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. The demolition crew, sensing the shift, began quietly packing up. Engines shut off one by one until the night was silent again. Dennis whispered, "Oh my God, the mayor, the actual mayor. You weren't kidding. I'm neighbors with the mayor's cousin. I need to start locking my trash can better." Karen tried to compose herself, but her voice shook. "This isn't over. You'll regret this, both of you." The mayor leaned in close enough that only she and I could hear. "No, Karen. The only one who's going to regret anything is you." And with that, he turned and walked back to his car. But just before he got in, he said, looking at me, one sentence that made my stomach twist. "Tomorrow, we move forward, but be ready. It's gonna get ugly."
The next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing like a kicked beehive. Word spread faster than wildfire that the mayor himself had shut down Karen's midnight demolition stunt. People who hadn't spoken to me in months suddenly waved from their driveways. A few even stopped by, offering muffins, coffee, even one guy with a six-pack of beer at 9 in the morning. But while the neighbors were celebrating, Karen was scrambling. She marched door to door, knocking on houses, claiming the mayor had no jurisdiction over the HOA. Her voice was shrill, desperate, her sunglasses hiding the panic in her eyes. Dennis sat on my porch, shaking his head, sipping tea like a man who had just survived the apocalypse. "She's finished, right? Tell me she's finished. Please tell me we don't wake up tomorrow to bulldozers strapped to tanks. I can't live like this. My blood pressure's already through the roof." I smiled. "Relax, Dennis. Today's the day everything comes crashing down. She can't bluff her way out of this one." At noon sharp, a convoy of black SUVs pulled into the neighborhood. Not Karen's lone SUV this time. These were official. State investigators, police cruisers, even a news van trailing behind. Residents poured into the street, whispering, clutching phones to record. Karen burst out of her house in a designer knockoff blazer that still had the tag dangling from the sleeve. "This is harassment," she screamed, waving her arms. "You can't come in here without HOA permission. I'm the president, and I forbid it." The lead investigator ignored her, walking straight up with a folder. "Karen Wilcox, you are under investigation for fraud, embezzlement, falsification of records, and abuse of authority. We have a warrant." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's face contorted, her voice going from a squeak to a roar. "This is all lies, lies spread by him." She jabbed her finger at me, trembling with rage. "He's poisoned this community against me." I stayed calm, hands in my pockets. "No, Karen, you did that yourself." Two officers stepped forward, handcuffs ready. That's when Dennis, bless his soul, completely lost it. He started clapping like he was at a rock concert, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Oh my God, it's happening! It's really happening! I'm free! Free at last! Take her away, boys! Take her away!" He spun in a circle, nearly knocking over his mug. "I'm framing my hedge trimmer as a trophy!" The officers cuffed Karen as she screamed, struggling, her expensive heels sinking into the grass. The news crew captured every second. Neighbors cheered, some laughed, even a few booed her. The mayor arrived shortly after. Stepping out of his car with quiet authority, he addressed the crowd directly. Ladies and gentlemen, effective immediately, the Lakeside Homeowners Association is suspended pending full investigation. All dues collection is halted. No fines will be enforced. Your community is officially free. The street erupted in cheers. People hugged, laughed, even popped champagne from someone's back porch. Dennis collapsed into a lawn chair, fanning himself with his pajama shirt. I can finally leave my recycling bin out overnight. Sweet mercy. Karen was loaded into the back of a cruiser, her sunglasses crooked, her perfect image shattered. She glared at me through the window, mouthing words I couldn't hear. But it didn't matter anymore. Her reign was over. Weeks later, the case hit the courts. Investigators uncovered everything. Over $80,000 stolen from HOA funds, fake invoices from Rick the Wrecking Man, and years of bogus fines. Karen pled guilty to multiple charges. The judge sentenced her to prison time and ordered restitution to every homeowner she had extorted. The HOA was dissolved completely. Residents voted to form a voluntary neighborhood association. No fines, no threats, no dictators and SUVs. For the first time in years, people actually smiled when walking their dogs, waved at each other, and felt safe in their own homes. And me? I sat on my porch one evening, sipping a cold beer, looking at my garage. My $42,000 investment stood tall, shining in the sunset, untouched and legal. Dennis wandered over, holding a slice of pie. "You know," he said between bites, "I haven't had a violation letter in weeks. I sleep like a baby now. Still double-check my hedge height every night, though. Old habits." I laughed. "Give it time, Dennis. You'll heal." Just then, my cousin pulled into the driveway. He got out, no suit this time, just jeans and a ball cap. "Told you it'd get ugly, but we got her." We sat together on the porch, watching the neighborhood kids ride bikes freely down the street. No one worried about fines, no one feared a knock on the door from Karen. The mayor raised his bottle toward the garage. "Some battles," he said, "are worth fighting." I clinked mine against his, and some bullies are worth taking down. The sound of laughter, the glow of the sunset, the peace that settled over the block, it was the kind of ending every neighborhood deserved. And that's how one garage, one mayor, and one very loud Karen changed everything. The HOA was gone. Justice was served, and for the first time in a long time, home truly felt like home.